Hi, hello, good afternoon. And today, me and my son are planting some bulbs that I have found, which ideally we would have planted earlier this year or late last year in order for them to have already started to flower, just like the tulips have over there. But we've only just found them. So what we're doing is we are putting some soil in them as they've already started to sprout. And we have left them in these compostable plant pots, which are on a tray. And what we're going to do is we are going to leave them on the tray for a few days and water them gently, so just to enable them to take root a little. And then once they start to be a little bit more established, we will either put them in a bigger pot or transport them and put them somewhere else in the garden. The good thing about bulbs is if you want to choose to leave them in the garden after they've flowered, some people will say deadhead your flowers, some people will say don't bother. But what they say is once the flower loses the head by deadheading the flowers, depending on what type they are, it enables the flower to then concentrate all of its energy into the bulb, which will then again, providing it does not get damaged, will regrow at next spring. Sometimes the bulbs may multiply, and again that depends on the type of flower it is and whether or not it is actually a bulb, or whether they use what is called a rhizome, which, if I am right, is what irises do, and some type of lily that we had in our old garden. I can't remember which, so please don't quote me on that. But there are different ways that obviously flowers can regrow, and that makes them either annual or biannual or perennials. And all of these words mean something completely different. And ironically, I did used to know what each of them meant, but in my 40s, I tend to forget these things because, like they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I am teaching my little boy how to pot up bulbs, and throughout the summer and the rest of the year, we are going to concentrate on our new garden, which is a hell of a lot smaller than the one I had before. I am really, really, really going to miss our old garden. But my pots should be coming soon from where they are currently being stored. And the garden I am in, yes, it is AstroTurf. There are pros and cons, but that what you see is what I've got. And what I have got is a semi-established border on one side of the garden. There are some trees at the back, like the Cynthia. There is a silver birch in my neighbour's garden, and there are a few conifers. And over there is a few of my plant pots. So we are hoping to have a border that is a little bit more full throughout the year. And we are also going to be looking at doing some temporary raised beds and a herbaceous border as well. So I've got a lot of herbs that I do want to look at regerminating from seed, and also some flowering shrubs and some fruit bushes and trees. And you can actually see some of my fruit bushes in my window, and I have deliberately left them in the house to enable them to get established. You can see on the lime that there is the roots. It could probably do with being in a bigger pot, but at the moment, yes, they were a little bit pot bound, but as you know, anything that's brought from a commercial place is bound to be pot bound. And not only that, they are forcefully grown, which can either help the plants to establish or actually reduce their life cycle once they are then purchased by the general public. So to get them acclimatized, and the fact that we are still only in the early months of spring and not summer, I have left them in the window in a garden that gets the sun for the majority of the day, and I will allow these to be established, and when needs be they will go into a bigger pot. Now, apparently you can eat the fruits, but I always say that when they're this kind of size, it's more for an ornamental feel. So that's what makes them such good house plants, but potentially they could be, put in the garden, but it wouldn't be something you would keep in the garden on an annual, like all year round. In the summer, they would be fine, but in the winter months, or late autumn, winter, and early spring, they would need to be indoors, either like how they are now, or if you have a greenhouse or a cold frame, just to prevent them from obviously getting frost damage. The other good thing obviously about me keeping these ones inside is it prevents them from getting attacked by green fly or fruit flies that would be extremely attracted to anything like this that is highly scented as well. And as obviously the fruits grow, the scent does change. And with this one, I would love to know what this climber is. So if anybody knows what it is, please leave a message. It would be great to have some feedback. I am hoping, unfortunately, the fence is not very safe. It has gone rotten. So I'm going to liaison with my next door neighbour to get this fence sorted out. And what I'm hoping is to enable that climber to go along the whole of the garden. Obviously, being very self-conscious of the fact that it's very close to the foundations of the property, and so if any of the slabs or anything start to raise, then I know it's due to the roots. So it does need maintaining, and in the winter I will make sure that everything gets cut back. There seems to be some other climbers that potentially have also been planted here. If I feel they're growing too big, I will dig them up and put them into a pot, and then that way I can limit the amount of growth that comes from the plants, because like with any garden, you have to be really vigilant about what you actually plant, especially how long does it take to grow, how long does it take to establish, what are the root structures like, because what you don't want to do is obviously buy something that you think is going to be ideal, whether it's for a small garden, big garden, for the front of your house, where it could end up potentially damaging the foundations of the property throughout, whilst it is growing. And there will be signs that obviously show you whether that is happening, and whether that's in a rented house or something you've purchased. It's something you do need to be aware of and be vigilant of. As something grows, the root system will grow too. So here we are. Thank you. So my son has carefully put some compost from the garden, and I know the compost in this garden is really good. I try to avoid buying compost unless I really need it, and when I do, I try to go for what is called peat-free compost. But again, it's personal choice, personal preference. But because there is already established garden here with this border, I know that the soil is going to be healthy to hopefully enable the bulbs that we have planted and potted up in these little pots to grow over the next couple of weeks. So I will take some more videos and photos as they are growing, and we'll see what we've got. If you've got any questions or queries, please don't hesitate to comment. And thank you for watching, and enjoy this beautiful spring day.